Get ready, everyone, because today we are diving deep into Path of Exile 2 Early Access. This is going to be big.
It really is.
So to set the stage, imagine Rayclass just completely consumed by corruption. Monsters are mutating, the dead are rising, and whispers of madness are just filling the air. That is the world that is waiting for us in Path of Exile 2. And this early access, this isn't just a little taste either. We're talking a 25-hour campaign to start, over 400 different monster types to battle, 50 unique bosses to conquer, and get this, 7 distinct endgame systems.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. So where do we even begin?
Well, I think what's really smart about this early access is the focus. You know, the developers know that players can sink hundreds of hours into the endgame. So instead of trying to rush all 6 campaign acts, right, they've really polished the first 3 acts to perfection, and they made sure that the endgame is a robust and rewarding experience right out of the gate.
Okay, so we might not be saving the entire world just yet. But the first 3 acts, they sound like a feast for the senses. You've got lush forests, scorching deserts, crumbling Val ruins, each area just dripping with atmosphere and secrets. And did you say there are permanent character boosts hidden throughout the campaign?
Yeah, you got that right. You won't just be hacking and slashing your way through. They're going to be optional encounters, hidden paths, and strategic choices that can permanently boost your character's power. It's like they're rewarding us for being curious and exploring every nook and cranny.
Now that's my kind of gameplay. Exploration and meaningful choices. Sign me up. But before we get lost in those crumbling ruins, we need to pick a champion, right? Fill me in on these starting classes.
Absolutely. So there are 6 classes available at launch, each offering a distinct flavor of combat and a whole arsenal of skills to unleash. We've got the monk, a martial arts master who weaves together elemental attacks with lightning-fast strikes. The warrior, a brutal force of nature who can shake the earth with his mighty slams and totems. And of course the ranger, nimble and deadly, raining arrows upon her foes from afar.
I'm already picturing myself dodging between enemies as the monk landing those perfectly timed elemental combos. Or maybe summoning an army of totems as the warrior watching them pummel everything in sight, and the ranger. Well, there's something eternally satisfying about a well-aimed arrow, especially when it's imbued with elemental magic. But what about the other 3 classes?
Oh yeah, we can't forget about them. We've also got the mercenary, a newcomer to Rayclass, bringing a whole new shooter-style gameplay with his customizable crossbow. You want explosive bolts, freezing rounds, or good old-fashioned piercing shots, he's got you covered. Then there's the witch, mistress of the undead, summoning hordes of minions to overwhelm her enemies, while she weakens them with debilitating chaos spells.
Summoning hordes of the undead. Now that's a power fantasy I can get behind, but you know me, I'm always drawn to the classics. What about the sorceress? Is she still the elemental powerhouse we know and love?
Absolutely. The sorceress is back and more powerful than ever. Imagine raining down firestorms, summoning icy blizzards, and unleashing bolts of lightning with devastating precision. It's classic elemental magic at its finest.
Okay, I'm sold. But here's where I usually get overwhelmed. Every ARPG has its own unique system for building your character, and Path of Exile is notorious for its depth. So break it down for me. What are the key things I need to know about character progression in Path of Exile 2?
Don't worry, it's not as intimidating as it seems. Think of it like this. You have your class, which provides a starting point, but then you have incredible freedom to shape your character's destiny through support gems, the passive skill tree, items and crafting, and ascendancy classes.
Okay, let's unpack this starting with support gems. How do those work?
Support gems are the spice of Path of Exile 2's combat. Imagine you're a ranger firing off single arrows. Now add the multiple projectiles support gem. Suddenly, you're unleashing a volley of arrows with every shot. Or picture the sorceress casting a simple fireball. Add the fork support gem, and that fireball splits into multiple projectiles, incinerating everything in its path.
So support gems essentially modify and enhance your skills in interesting ways. I can see how that could lead to some crazy combinations. But what about this infamous passive skill tree? I've seen screenshots. And it looks like a tangled web of madness.
Yeah, it is big, I'll give you that. Over 1,500 nodes. But think of it as a giant map, with pathways leading to different specializations. Each level you earn a point to spend charting your course through clusters of nodes. That enhance specific stats, damage types, defenses, or even grant entirely new mechanics.
Okay, so it's not just about randomly picking nodes. It's about strategically navigating this tree to create a cohesive build. Can you give me an example of how this works in practice?
Sure. Let's say you're playing a melee-focused warrior, and you want to boost your survivability. You might focus on a cluster of nodes that increases your life pool. armor rating, and physical damage reduction. Or maybe you want to specialize in critical strikes. There's a whole branch dedicated to boosting critical strike chance, multiplier, and even granting special effects on critical hits.
So it's all about finding synergies between your class, your chosen skills, and the path you forge through the passive skill tree. But there are also these things called keystones, right? What are those all about?
Yeah, keystones are like major crossroads on the passive skill tree. They offer significant benefits, but often require you to adapt your playstyle or sacrifice certain stats. For example, elemental overload grants a massive boost to elemental damage, but it prevents you from dealing critical strikes. So it's a trade-off, right? You're forced to commit to a specific playstyle.
Risk and reward. I like it. It sounds like there's a lot of potential for experimentation and creating truly unique builds. But we're not done yet, right? What about items and crafting? How does that factor into character progression?
Oh, items and crafting. That's where you truly fine-tune your build in Path of Exile 2. Think of it like this. Every piece of gear you find, every gem you socket, every crafting decision you make, it all contributes to the overall power and playstyle of your character.
Okay, I'm intrigued but also slightly intimidated. Path of Exile has a reputation for having a pretty complex crafting system. Can you break it down for me in a way that even a crafting newbie can understand?
Of course. So let's start with the basics. Items come in different rarities. You've got your normal items, magic, rare, and unique. Normal items are your basic, no-frills gear. Magic items have 1 or 2 random properties. Rares can have up to 6, making them the most customizable.
So far, so good. What about those uniques? Those sound pretty special.
Yeah, uniques are kind of like the crown jewels of Path of Exile 2's itemization. These are handcrafted items with fixed, often incredibly powerful properties. They're not just about raw stats. They can introduce entirely new mechanics or synergies to your build.
Okay, give me an example. I need to see this in action to really grasp it.
All right. Imagine a pair of boots called Corpse Walker. Sounds ominous, right? Well, these boots make corpses explode into poisonous clouds as you run through them. Talk about a morbid cleanup crew. Or how about Sands of Time? A body armor that transforms your dodge roll into a sand-powered blink, teleporting you through enemies in a flash.
Wow, those are some seriously cool and flavorful items. I can see how they could completely change the way you play the game. But how do we actually get our hands on these amazing items? Is it all about random drops?
Well, drops are definitely a big part of it, but that's where crafting comes in. Path of Exile 2 offers a wealth of crafting options, allowing you to modify, enhance, and even completely transform your gear.
Okay, hit me with some crafting basics. Where do we even begin?
Think of crafting currency as the tools of the trade. You'll find orbs of transmutation, which can turn a normal item into a magic one, orbs of augmentation, which add a random property to a magic item, and so on. There are dozens of different currency items, each with a specific function.
So it's like we're alchemists experimenting with these different currencies to create the perfect gear. What are some of the more advanced crafting techniques?
As you progress, you'll unlock crafting benches, each offering unique crafting options. You can use a crafting bench to add specific mods to an item, guaranteeing a desired outcome. You can also use essences, which are kind of like blueprints to guarantee specific mods when crafting.
This is starting to make sense. So we're not just hoping for lucky drops. We're actively shaping our gear through crafting. I'm starting to get that power fantasy feeling just thinking about it. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about. Ascendancy classes. What are those all about?
Oh, ascendancy classes. These are like specializations within your chosen class. Starting in Act 2, you'll encounter trials that once completed unlock your ascendancy class, granting access to a unique skill tree, and a powerful set of abilities that can dramatically alter your playstyle.
It's like choosing a specialization for your character, further refining their role and pushing their abilities to the next level. I'm loving this layered approach to character progression. Can you give me an example of how these ascendancy classes work?
Sure. Let's say you're playing a sorceress. You could choose to ascend to the elementalist, focusing on maximizing your elemental damage and gaining powerful synergies between fire, ice, and laning spells. Or you could become a necromancer, specializing in summoning a vast army of undead minions to overwhelm your enemies.
Okay, I'm seeing the potential here. It's like each choice opens up a new world of possibilities. But we've been focusing a lot on building our character and gearing up. What about the actual content? What can we expect from the campaign itself?
Well, the campaign is a sprawling 25-hour journey through 3 diverse acts. You'll explore lush forests, scorching deserts, crumbling Vol ruins. Each area is meticulously crafted, filled with secrets to uncover, optional encounters to tackle, And of course, challenging boss fights to overcome.
Okay, color me intrigued. Can you give me a taste of some of the environments and challenges we'll face in the campaign?
Okay, picture this. You're trekking through the dense, overgrown Vostiri Desert, the sun beating down on your armor. Suddenly, you're ambushed by a pack of sand stalkers, agile predators that burrow beneath the sand and launch surprise attacks. Or imagine navigating the labyrinthine Val, ruins the air thick with the stench of decay and the whispers of restless spirits. You stumble upon an ancient altar pulsing with unholy energy. Do you risk activating it knowing that it might unleash a powerful guardian? Or do you play it safe and continue your journey?
Okay, chills. This is what I love about Path of Exile. The atmosphere. The sense of discovery. The constant feeling that danger lurks around every corner. But let's be honest, the real meat of any ARPG is the endgame. What can you tell me about Path Exile 2's endgame?
The endgame is where Path of Exile 2 truly shines. We've already talked about ascendancy classes, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The endgame is all about pushing your character to its limits, tackling increasingly challenging content, and earning powerful rewards.
Okay, I'm ready to test my mettle. Give me the lay of the land. What are the key elements of the endgame experience?
At the heart of the endgame is the Atlas, a sprawling infinite map representing the interconnected regions of Rayclast. It's your gateway to a vast array of endgame content, including randomized maps, challenging boss encounters, and 7 distinct endgame systems, each offering its own unique mechanics, rewards, and progression path.
7 distinct endgame systems. Okay, you've officially blown my mind. This is what I love about Path of Exile. The sheer depth and variety of content. Break it down for me. What are these systems? And what makes each one unique?
Well, we've already talked about the endgame extensions of the Ascendancy trials, the Trial of the Sigmas and the Trial of Chaos, but we still have 5 more to explore. Reach, Ritual, Delirium, Expedition, and something truly special.
Okay, my curiosity is officially piqued. Lay it on me. What demonic horrors, chaotic rituals, and hidden treasures await us in these endgame systems. And my brain is buzzing with all this talk of Ascendancy trials, crafting, and an atlas. That sounds like it could hold an entire universe. But you mentioned 5 more endgame systems. Spill the beans. What kind of challenges await?
Let's start with something familiar yet amplified. Breach. Imagine tears and reality ripping open across Rayclast. Hordes of demonic creatures surge through, hungry for destruction. It's chaos, it's intense, and it's overflowing with loot.
Breach sounds like my kind of party. What's the strategic approach here? Just wade in and start slaying demons?
Well, it's tempting to just go wild, but there's a layer of strategy to it. As you slay these otherworldly invaders, you collect splinters. Gather enough and you can craft a breach stone. Opening a portal to a concentrated breach domain, that's where the real challenge and the best rewards lie.
A concentrated breach domain sounds like a recipe for a thrilling, loot-filled massacre. What about those who prefer a more calculated, ritualistic approach?
For those who prefer a bit more of a ritualistic approach, there's Ritual. Picture stumbling upon an ancient altar pulsing with arcane energy. It demands tribute, a sacrifice of monsters within its circle. As the ritual begins, the sacrificed monsters are resurrected, empowered by a force known as the King in the Mists. Defeat them and claim powerful rewards.
Ooh, I love that twist. We're empowering the very enemies we have to fight. It's like a high-stakes gamble with the fabric of reality. What kind of rewards are we talking about here?
Ritual offers a chance to acquire powerful items, but the real prize is the ability to manipulate crafting currency itself. Think of it as meta-crafting, taking your crafting game to a whole new level of strategy and customization.
Meta-crafting. Now that's a power fantasy I can get behind. It's like we're not just crafting gear, we're crafting the very tools we use to craft gear. My head is spinning. But let's move on to something a little less sanity-bending. What about this delirium you mentioned?
Ugh, delirium. Imagine a mist creeping across the land, warping reality itself. It brings your nightmares to life, conjuring nightmarish creatures and twisting familiar environments into something unsettling.
Ooh, spooky. This sounds like a test of courage as much as skill. What kind of rewards await those who dare to venture into this madness-infused mist?
The mist is a source of powerful crafting materials known as distilled emotions. These allow you to imbue your amulets with notables from the passive skill tree, granting you free passive points, essentially.
So we're not just fighting monsters, we're siphoning off the essence of delirium itself to power up our characters. I'm liking this theme of pushing boundaries. What's the ultimate challenge within delirium?
Deep within the delirium, you'll find simulacrum splinters. These grant access to simulacrums, which are like warped reflections of your memories, where you face increasingly difficult waves of enemies and terrifying bosses. Conquer these reflections and you'll gain even more power to navigate the mists.
Simulacrums. Sounds like a recipe for some serious psychological trauma. But hey, no pain, no gain, right? What about this expedition you teased earlier? Did this involve spelunking, treasure hunting, but perhaps a bit of both?
Expedition is all about uncovering ancient secrets and blowing things up in the process. You'll encounter the Kalgurans, a band of treasure hunters obsessed with excavating ancient artifacts. But be warned, their methods are explosive.
Explosions, treasure, sign me up. What kind of loot are we talking about here?
The Kalgurans are happy to trade the artifacts you recover for valuable items and powerful runic magic. But the real prize lies in discovering logbooks, maps that lead to vast dig sites ripe for exploration. And who knows what ancient guardians might be protecting those treasures.
Okay, I'm sold on Expedition. It's got that Indiana Jones vibe with a touch of explosive mayhem. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here. Breach, Ritual, Delirium, Expedition, and of course, those Endgame extensions of the Ascendancy trials. But you mentioned something truly special. What's the final piece of this Endgame puzzle?
Remember that mysterious fortress we talked about? The one accessible only by defeating the Uber versions of the Act bosses?
Oh, I haven't forgotten. It's been haunting my thoughts this whole time. What awaits within those walls?
That, my friend, is the ultimate mystery. It's the pinnacle of challenge in Path of Exile 2's Endgame. A test designed for those who have mastered their builds, conquered the trials, and are hungry for the ultimate reward.
Okay, you've officially hooked me. I'm ready to dive into this world of corruption and chaos, explore those diverse acts, push my build to its limits in the endgame, and uncover the secrets of that mysterious fortress.
Then what are you waiting for? Choose your Path Exile. Rayclast awaits.